My name is Chelsea, and I work on the customer support team here at Recruiterbox. And I'm really excited to show you around the system, answer some questions that you may have about Recruiterbox, and just get you started on how to use the system better. Today, we're going to go over logging into Recruiterbox, using your dashboard, viewing candidates, and also communicating with candidates, moving them through hiring stages, and then also various email notifications that you can get in the system when you interact with Recruiterbox. So first, let's talk about logging into Recruiterbox. So if you haven't logged in before, you can go to our website, which is just Recruiterbox.com, and in the upper right-hand corner, there's a login button. That's going to take you to the login screen. So on the login screen, you're going to enter your username and password. Your username is typically your work email address, and then your password. If you can't remember your password, there is a cannot log in button to the right of the login screen that allows you to request a password reset. When you do that, we send you a link and that lets you reset your password. All right, so when you do get logged into Recruiterbox, you're taken to your Recruiterbox dashboard. I think of my dashboard as my to-do list, or the place that I can go to figure out what I need to do next in the system. The dashboard has different sections, and each of these sections has candidates underneath them that are driving the notifications on the dashboard. For example, right here I've clicked on one review pending on me, and when I look at that, I see that the candidate Sarah is driving that notification. The dashboard has a lot of different sections, and you can click into each of them to see the candidates that are driving the notification. A handy thing to know about the dashboard is that it shows you the candidates across all of your openings, but maybe you want to concentrate on just a particular opening or just a particular part. If you'd like to, you can always filter down the dashboard to just show candidates that are in a specific opening. Just keep in mind the next time you come to the dashboard, we remember that filter, so turn it off when you're ready to see everything again. All right, so on the slide before, we talked about this candidate, Sarah, and that she was showing on our dashboard. If we click on Sarah's profile, we're able to see the information inside of it. So this looks like a lot of information, but it's actually pretty cool. So this is where we get to see everything inside of Sarah's Recruiterbox profile. At the top, we're going to see Sarah's name and contact information. We're also going to see some tabs, and these tabs allow us to open the different sections of Sarah's profile. Below that, we're going to see answers to application questions. So if you have a custom application form and Sarah's answered those questions, you would see them here. Below that, we're also going to have Sarah's resume. On the right side of the profile, you've got some quick buttons at the top to allow you to do things like send emails or leave a comment on the candidate's profile. You also have the steps of the hiring workflow. We're going to talk about those in a bit, but this is where you're going to find them on the right side of the profile. Whenever you're looking at a candidate's profile, you might notice this red marker beside my arrow. This is what we call a duplicate marker. So inside of Recruiterbox, we track duplicates based on the email address the candidate has in their profile. If it's an exact match, then we do mark it as a duplicate. So anytime you see this marker, it's a good heads up that there might be another candidate that has that exact same email address. Clicking on this would let you see the candidate and make sure that maybe they're not already being considered for another position, or maybe they've already been rejected for a reason and you need to read about that. All right, so we talked about stages a few minutes ago, and that was on that far right side of the candidate's profile. So the stages are the different steps of the hiring workflow. And I think of these as what does the candidate need to do from application to wherever they end up. Maybe they end up hired, maybe they end up rejected, but what are all of the steps they're going to go through as they go through the process? So the stages live here on the right side, and they're connected to the opening that the candidate's assigned to. One important part of Recruiterbox is moving the candidates through those stages. So for example, if I've just screened this profile and I know that they need to be moved on to the next stage, I can go ahead and do that in a timely manner so that everyone knows where the candidate's at, what they need to have happen next, and who's responsible for them. So whenever you take a next step on a candidate, I suggest that you go ahead and move them through to the next step of the hiring process as well. In addition to moving candidates through the hiring process, communicating with candidates is a big part of the hiring process as well. When we looked at Sarah's profile, we talked about the tabs across the top, and we were in the Profile tab first, and now we've clicked over into the Emails tab. The Emails tab is where you see the previous communication between yourself or other users and Sarah. So this is where you're going to see any of the email threads that have been going back and forth. You can also write to Sarah as well. So you can either reply to an existing thread, which you can do from the bottom of any of the threads, or you can click on the new email button, which is in the upper right-hand corner, which is where we talked about those quick buttons. Whenever you're ready to write to a candidate and you click to do either a new email or a reply, it's going to pop open a box to let you write that email. So when you're writing an email, you're going to have this box that I talked about, and it has some handy tools for composing your email. So the first is in the upper right-hand corner, and that's what we call a template. So a template lets you save a message text that you're going to use over and over. For example, I always say the same thing when I'm rejecting a candidate and the same thing when I'm inviting them into an in-person interview. I can save things such as my office location information or the text that I like to use for my company description. This lets me quickly pull that data in, and it gives me less brain work that I have to do when I'm composing a message. Of course, you have the same thing that you're used to when writing an email. You have your email subject and your email body, and that allows you to compose your message. And then you also have some handy editing tools across the bottom of the candidate message if you want to make something in bold or attach something to your message. And then on the very bottom, you have some other tools. The first is to remind you to follow up about the message. So this is really handy if you want to make sure that you hear back from the candidate. You can set a reminder, and that's going to pop up and tell you if the candidate hasn't replied at the date you've set. You also have two buttons for sending. The far right blue button sends the message immediately. So only click this if you're ready to send the message right now. The white button allows you to send the message at another time. I find this really handy if I'm about to reject someone. Maybe I just took an interview with them and I'm like, no, they are not a fit, but I don't want to send that rejection message right away. Maybe I want it to go in 2 days or I want it to go on Monday. You can use the arrow on the white button to pick another time to send this message. It'll then schedule the message and send it automatically at the time that you picked. All right. So when you're communicating with candidates, one thing that's really handy is to have an email signature set up. I'm sure all of you have an email signature set up on whatever email client you use currently. So it's great to set that up here in Recruiterbox too. If you'd like to set up an email signature, the first thing you're going to do is click on Settings. So if you haven't accessed Settings before, you can get to Settings from the lower left-hand corner of your Recruiterbox screen. On that far left-hand side, there's a blue bar, and the bottom of it has a settings wheel like in that first picture there. Once in Settings, you're actually going to click on the very first option, Profile and Password. This is also a handy place to go if you need to change your time zone or reset your password or change the email address you log into Recruiterbox with. But it's also where you're going to set that email signature. Once your email signature is set up, it will automatically attach to every message that you send from Recruiterbox. When you're using Recruiterbox, there is a number of email notifications that you get throughout the system. We're going to talk about 4 of these here. So we're going to talk about interview notifications, requests to review profiles, replies to candidate messages, and also the notification that you get when you're tagged in a comment. All right, so first let's talk about email notifications for your interview invites. So when you're invited to an interview, obviously we drop you an email to let you know the time of the interview and all the details that you need to know. This interview invite also has a handy link to the candidate's profile. So clicking on this link opens a special page to view the candidate's profile. There's some cool things about this page. First of all, it's mobile friendly. So if you're taking an interview on the go, you can easily leave your interview feedback from your mobile device. It also doesn't require you to log in. So this is a pretty big plus of this page. So if you are perhaps on a different computer than you're used to using, or you just haven't logged into your Recruiterbox account for that day, you can click on this link and you don't actually have to log in to leave your interview feedback because the link itself is specific to you when it's sent to you. From this page, you have a preview of the candidate's information, so you've got some key points of the candidate's information. You do have a button to view their full profile should you need to see more information about them, and that link would make you log in since you are accessing the full Recruiterbox system. And then on the right side, you have a button to submit your evaluation. So this lets you leave your interview feedback after you're finished interviewing the candidate. The interview feedback box includes a place to leave notes and then a place to give your rating, thumbs up or thumbs down. And then you can submit your evaluation. Once submitted, this is saved on the Recruiterbox profile, and the person who scheduled the interview is notified that you've left your feedback. Similar to an interview request, another email notification that you get is a review request. So an interview and review are fairly similar, but the way that I differentiate them in my own head is that an interview is time-bound. I'm telling you that at 2 o'clock tomorrow, you're going to interview this candidate. Whereas a review is more ad hoc. I'm saying, I'd like you to take a look at this profile, but not necessarily call them or meet with them. It's more of a passive review of the data inside the profile. I personally use reviews a lot when I am on the fence about a candidate. I'd like to send them to my teammates or maybe my manager and have them take a look and see what they think about the profile. You can build review steps in as a regular part of the hiring process or as an ad hoc step whenever you need it. When you're asked to review a candidate, we send you an email notification letting you know that you've been asked to review. This also has one of those special links that we talked about that opens a preview of the candidate's profile. Now, this one has a little bit more information since you're doing a more holistic review of the candidate's profile. It includes the emails and the feedback tab as well as some more profile information. Again, this link is very mobile friendly and allows you to access it without logging in because the link is specific to you. Should you need more information, you do also have that View Full Profile button that allows you to open and look at the full candidate profile. On the right side of the page, you have the Write Review button, which lets you leave your review feedback. This lets you look at the candidate's profile, think about it, and then leave some comments. This page looks very similar to what we just talked about on the interviews. You can leave your comments, and then you can leave your thumbs up and thumbs down. When you submit your review, it's saved on the candidate's profile, and the person who requested the review is notified that you've left your feedback. So another email notification that you get is a reply to a candidate message. So we talked a few minutes ago about sending a candidate a message, but what happens when they reply? So if you are the sender of a candidate message or you are CC'd by another user who sends the message, you're alerted in your email when that candidate replies. So one really neat thing about this is you can actually continue the conversation from your email directly. You don't even have to log into Recruiterbox. So once a candidate responds, you can continue to reply from your own email. We're going to send that as if it came from Recruiterbox, and we're going to still continue to record the thread inside of Recruiterbox. Of course, if you'd rather reply from Recruiterbox directly, there's always a link to view the candidate's profile too. Just keep in mind, if you are going to write from your own email, that the thread must be started in Recruiterbox. So initially, start the thread in Recruiterbox, and then when the candidate replies, you can continue the conversation from your own email. Okay, so another reason that you would be notified in your email is when you're tagged in a comment or a note in the candidate's profile. So you notice that there was a comments tab in the profile, and that's for leaving internal notes between yourself and your teammates inside of Recruiterbox. This is a place where you can have someone check out a profile or ask for more details. Personally, I also use the comments to give someone a heads up. Maybe I want to leave them a note about something I noticed on the resume before they take an interview with the candidate. You can use the @ symbol in your comments to tag another user in the comment. That user is then notified in email, and the email notification has a link to view the candidate's profile. All right, so those were some of the email notifications that you get, but there are some others that I'm sure you've seen as well. The ones that we just discussed cannot be turned off because they're really important. Like, it's really important to know that you've been invited to an interview or that someone wants you to review a profile. But there are some other email notifications, such as a daily summary of tasks or a notification every time someone's moved into your stage. You do have the ability to control those notifications, and that's under settings, which is on that lower left side, like we just talked about. And then it's under email notifications, which is actually directly below where you set up your email signature under profile and password. Whenever you need help, the support team is support@Recruiterbox.com. And sometimes it's a little scary to send an email to a generic email address like that because you might think that you're going into some support black hole. But these faces here are the 4 people who are going to be answering your email whenever you write in. That's myself on the left, and then Mary, Annette, and Ron. Between the 4 of us, one of us is going to be the one getting back to you, and we're pretty quick to respond. So please reach out because we would really love to help.